everyone, and welcome to Thorough Newspaper Analysis, which is brought to you by Losico. So, today we will be discussing two articles. The first article is from The Hindu, which is titled as Tech Tact. So, as we know that very recently, a lot of newly, and the other Chinese apps have also been banned by the Indian government on the question of sovereignty and the national security. So, we'll be discussing about as to what do we really need in India when it comes to the technology, and how can we keep a safe and secure platform for all the technological aspects. And the second article is from the Indian Express, which is titled as Coastal Security After 26/11, which is also very famously we call as the 26/11 incident. So as we know that very recently we have completed 12 years to this incident, this unfaithful incident which took place in Mumbai in the Taj Hotel, the very famous Taj Hotel. So after that, as we know, the attack had come through the coastal lines in India. So we'll be discussing as to what steps since then have been taken to ensure that we are secure on the coastal side as well. And finally, we have the news and flash column wherein we'll be discussing the small and crisp news points. So if you're also interested into judicial services examination, you can have a look at the Lord of the Courses, which is the judiciary test prep course from LawSeco. The link is there in the description box, and you can get a free study material over there from the landing page as well. Also, the PDF of this entire discussion and the slides will now be available in our Telegram group. The link to that Telegram group is available in the description box as well, so you can join that group as well. The links to our Facebook group as well as our WhatsApp group are also available over there for other information, our notes, etc., which are timely shared on the group itself. With this, let's see that what is the multiple choice question for the day. Sea sparkle, recently seen in news, is a or an sea sparkle. It is an animal, a plant, both animal and a plant, or fourth, none of the above. So this is the descriptive question for the day. India not only needs to secure its continental borders, but also its vast coastline. Discuss the various methods to achieve coastal security. So once we are done with today's article, you will definitely be able to understand this context very easily. With this, let's understand the first article for the day, which talks about the technology regulation. So recently, India has blocked another 43 Chinese mobile applications, and since June, over 250 Chinese applications have been blocked. Now, as we know that since India has been going through the standoff with Chinese army in the Ladakh and Galwan area, and keeping that in mind, the India has been keeping a keen eye on the security, national security, as well as sovereignty of the country. And citing the very same reasons, quoting the same reasons, the Indian government has till date, since the month of June, blocked, or in a way, they have stopped using, or they have disallowed the use of approximately 250 Chinese applications, which are mostly the mobile applications. Now let's understand that what are the real reasons behind it firstly, and then let's understand that what are the real implications or the impact of such banning of Chinese apps. Now, to be precise, in this article, the real reasons were not really quoted because this issue has been much talked about recently. So if we generally try to understand, the first reason that obviously has been quoted by the government is that these apps, for example, there is any particular app you register to. For example, if we are using the very famous app which has now been banned, TikTok. So in that you need to put in your name, your mail ID, and maybe your phone number as well. So in such applications, a lot of personal data is shared by the people. And many a times it has been alleged that various Chinese applications and Chinese data these prospects have been using, or in a way we can call misusing, the data of the personal data of the people who register to these apps. Now in such a scenario, when India obviously is not sharing a very good and healthy relationship with its neighbor China, so it is desirable that the government makes sure that no personal data is allowed to outflow from India to China. And that is why all of these such applications, which were Chinese applications, were completely banned to be used in India. So one reason can be when we quote national security and the sovereignty of the country. Then there can be other reasons, for example, maybe some political agenda to that matter, but that's not something that should concern us currently in this current scenario. So basically, we can understand that more or less it is due to the national security and securing the sovereignty, and to make sure that the data that belongs to India stays just within the territory of India, and in no way it is allowed to unknowingly outflow from the territory of our own country. With this, let's understand that what are the implications of such banning of the applications, whether these being from China, and specifically let's talk about these Chinese apps. So if in the short run or for the short duration we try to understand, useful for India to use its vast market for internet services as a leverage. Now in the short run, if we see that, for example, let's say understand about a very simple application like which was known as the cam scanner. So in that application you could simply scan a normal photo or picture that you take through with the camera of your mobile phone, and through the very technology that was available in this application, you can convert that picture or that jpeg image or whatever in that form the image is available, you can convert it into PDF and then you can use it for various purposes. Now let's say, for example, there were 100 users in the whole country. Let's say, for example, that 100 people in our own country used this application of cam scanner. Now since this cam scanner was a Chinese application and it had been banned lately, so there is a chance for any kind of Indian developer who is interested into developing the applications, that almost this similar application is developed by any domestic tech savvy or any person for that matter, and thus these 100 users who were earlier using cam scanner would now be able to use an application that is indigenously or domestically developed by our own nationals. So in this regard, they are saying that this is can in the short run at least we can take this opportunity to utilize this vast market of internet services as a leverage, and thus the domestic people who are dealing into technology can hover and they can grow through this opportunity. And otherwise also we have basically linked both the points in here, where it can incentivize, it can act as an incentive for the domestic alternatives. But this needs to be kept in mind that this benefit is only in the short run. But when we talk about the long run or the risk involved, which would last for a longer period, firstly, unconventional battle between the two in larger technology realm, China's tech global supply chain. Now we know that when it comes to China, China is a very, very important link in the global supply chain of technology. And it can never be said, at least for a few years to come, that India can completely ignore the technological help that is coming in from China. Let's take a very simple example for that. Now, since India is trying to move into 5G network or 5G technology, and for that matter, India had invited Huawei, which is a Chinese company which provides a lot of input and materials and, in a way, logistics for working with the 5G network. Now, in such a scenario, to find an alternative which is not only as efficient but also as cheap and easily available as Huawei, which is a Chinese company, is definitely not going to be easy for India. That is why it would not be very easy or practical to say that India can completely ignore the presence of China in the technological world. And that is why definitely India will have to fight a very, very hard battle to ignore China's presence in the global supply chain of technology. And that is why it is maybe like banning 40, 50 or 250 apps would be a feasible option for India, but we need to understand that till what level can we really take, can we really take this boycott thing against China or Chinese goods and services for that matter. Secondly, perceived adversely by global investors and internal companies. Now, another thing that we need to understand is that when we talk about the FDIs or the foreign direct investments, these basically not only are dependent on the very opportunities or the resources, the labor, or the conducive environment that is available in a particular country. Rather, foreign direct investments are hugely dependent upon the trust, the trust that this particular company has on that other particular country in which it is going to invest. Let's take another example for that. Very recently, Google had announced that it would probably be investing approximately $10 billion into India, into developing its technology and also growing through the making use of Indian opportunity. Now, the reason why Google has decided so is not just because Sundar Pichai is the CEO of Google and he belongs to India, or maybe India has a lot of demographic dividend coming up. India has a lot of technological aspirations as well as potential. Definitely, these are very potential reasons. But One of the main reasons why a company has decided to invest such huge and hectic amount into a country is because it believes into the strength of the market of this company. It trusts this particular country, and it believes that if at all it would be investing a particular amount into this country, this is a reliable country. The governance here, or the people and the institutions here, are reliable, and thus such huge amount of money can be invested in the market of this company. Now, just imagine that if again and again India would be sending this message in the international market, that India every now and then keeps banning the applications just because it has some kind of geopolitical or military issue going on with with a neighbor country, then definitely it would not send a very friendly and conducive message out in the world, and it might harper or it hamper basically a lot of foreign direct investments or various foreign companies to come and with trust invest into our country. So we need to definitely look into the long term effects as well, and we need to implement the long pending data protection law. So this is a very important thing that we need to understand. Like, for example, if we say that the roads in India are not safe, okay, so because of the conditions of the roads, there are a lot of we're just trying to understand this with an analogy, so please try to connect with me. For example, we say that a particular route, it connects destination A to destination B, is in a very bad and shattered condition, and due to this bad condition there is always a very high risk of occurring of accidents. But then again, we know that this particular route is very important to connect two very important destinations, and a lot of economic activities, transportation, transactions depend on this particular route. Now, we have two options available. Either we look altogether for a new route and we totally give up this route, and we totally stop moving our vehicles or our transportation system from this route, considering that it is risky. Or we have a chance to basically invest a bit into this route, and we make it a safe, sound, and bring it in proper condition, and we arrange all the safety measures that are there, and we make this route safe enough that now the transportation can occur at a very safe in very safe conditions. Which option do you think is more feasible and practical to be done? Obviously, option second, wherein instead of finding a new route altogether, or just banning that complete route, keeping in mind, because we should keep in mind that how important this route is, it is very much essential that we repair this route. And if we talk about, if we simultaneously put this analogy into this technological issue that we are discussing right now, instead of completely banning these Chinese apps for that matter, India should rather work on developing its data protection law. As we know that we have Justice B.N. Sri Krishna Committee, which is very, very important for the data protection law. We should definitely look into the implementing the recommendations given by B.N. Sri Krishna Committee, and we should implement as soon as possible our data protection law, so that we have a safeguard in hand instead of banning these apps. So here there was a small mention about the China's firewall, or the Firewall of China. So basically, it had started in 1998, and it is just like just we see on the basic map of China, wherein the Great Wall of China, which is obviously a historical monument, so it protects China from a lot of outside world and its adversaries. Similarly, there is this name which is given to the Great Firewall of China, wherein a lot of technological intakes are avoided just at the border of the Chinese borders at the international area, and these many of these things are not allowed to work or function in Chinese territory. For example, just let's take very very common example of YouTube and Facebook. So these such streaming sites or the social media sites are not allowed to function in China. So just to give you a clarification as to what the Great Firewall of China is. With this, let's discuss the second article for the day, which talks about the coastal security after 26/11. So, as we know, the 26th November 2020 was the 12th anniversary of the 26/11 Mumbai attacks. So, the main thing that has been discussed in this article is about the IMAC, which is the Information Management and Analysis Center. So, only we need to understand as to what is it and why was it actually brought into picture. So, it was set up in 2014, based in Gurgaon, and it is jointly operated by Navy and Coast Guard. Now, from here, a very potential prelims question can come, that as to what is or where is the IMAC, which is the Information Management and Analysis Center, located, or who actually operates the IMAC. So it is jointly operated by Navy, the Indian Navy, and the Coast Guard. Basically, it was brought in to ensure that the Indian Navy, Coast Guard, and Marine Police. Now, please don't get confused. These are all different agencies of the government of India that have different roles to play. Just like we have, like for example, in our Indian Army as well, we have the paramilitary forces, we have special commandos, we have black commandos. So just like that, in the coastal area as well, or the coastal security or the maritime security of India, we obviously have the Indian Navy, we have Coast Guard, and then we have Marine Police. So they work in an integrated manner. The IMAC facilitates exchange of maritime security information. So basically, as we know that the only biggest thing that we have in hand today is the information. Who the one who has the information is almost said to have won the war. So that is why IMAC facilitates a proper and easy exchange of the maritime security information among various national stakeholders and generate a common picture, and only tracks non-military. Now here, one thing that we need to keep in mind is that it tracks only the white shipping. So what do we mean by white shipping? The non-military and commercial ships that actually sail in the waters of any country, these are known as white shipping in the Indian Ocean region. So basically, the military vehicles or vessels, are not really tracked by them, but only the non-military and commercial vehicles, as in the ships, are noted and kept a track on by the IMAC. So basically, why actually it was brought? So the 10 terrorists who carried out the 2611 entered Mumbai through the sea using inflatable speedboats. So basically, that is how they actually were able to enter into India, the Indian territory, and that is why maintaining a very secure coastline is very important for any nation, specifically like India that has such a vast coastline. And after the attack, several vulnerabilities of the coastal security came into light, and thus it was very essential to keep it in mind. So this is the entire functioning of the IMAC. You can go through this. So you don't really need to remember it point by point, but just the basic function of the IMAC. It's where is it located and who actually takes the control of the IMAC. Now, what are the other steps that we need to take? We need to develop a solution to track small vessels as well, or the ships without transponders. Now, there are a few ships that do not have a proper signaling method, and many a times, even the institutions like IMAC are not able to catch the presence of these small vessels or ships. Now, in such a scenario, it is important that we have another system that can take into account such small fishing vessels or such small shipping vessels which do not have such signals attached to them. And these also, you should know, they're actually called as dark ships. So those ships that are not easily traceable in the waters are known as dark ship. And a National Maritime Awareness Center, currently under consideration by Cabinet Committee on Security, should be brought into picture so that an integrated approach to the national maritime security can be taken in this direction. With this, let's see what do we have for news in flash. GMRT accorded prestigious IEEE milestone status. So the Giant Meter Wave Radio Telescope, very recently we had discussed about it. Basically, this telescope is very, very huge now, as you can see in this picture, and it is actually helping the astronomers a lot in understanding the rate of, that at what rate the stars are formed in the Milky Way galaxy. So this has actually been selected as a milestone facility by US-based Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers. So the honors significant technical achievements which have global and regional impact, and this GMRT has been developed by India. So this is a very proud moment for all of us. So this is only the third such IEEE recognition for an Indian contribution. So other two were Sir J.C. Bose's work on demonstrating the generation and reception of radio waves in 1985, and the Nobel Prize winning scattering of light phenomena by Sir C.V. Raman in 1928. With this, let's see the second one, Sea Sparkle at the Karnataka coast. Now, many a times you might have seen that the coast, the beach is the water near the sand area. It actually sparkles a lot. It seems like some light is there in the water. So as per a study by the Central Marine Fisheries Research Institute, Mangaluru, the bloom of Noctiluca scintillans. So this is the scientific name of the sea sparkle. This also should be kept in mind. This can also be a question in prelims. So sea sparkle has displaced microscopic algae called diatoms. So earlier diatoms were there, but now the sea sparkles has potentially replaced the diatoms, which forms the basis of marine food chain. So now this is not a very good sign, though like they might look very beautiful, but it's not a good sign for the entire marine food chain, because the very algae that has been replaced by sea sparkles, which was called as diatoms, basically form the base or the first level of the food chain, the marine food chain. And if at all the first level of the food chain would be disturbed, then obviously the other levels that depend on the level lower to it would definitely be disturbed. So the bioluminescent, which means that it biologically, like naturally, it has this ability to be luminescent. Noctiluca scintillans also brighten the sea water during the night. So this needs to be remembered. So with this, we are done for the day. We hope it was a good session for you. Thank you so much.